Well, hi there! Little bit of a different setup. I am coming to you, I was going to say live. No, I'm not coming live. But I am coming from you on location in Los Angeles because I am at Gallifrey 1. Just ended the first day of the con. I will be putting out a video on my experience here. Depending on when I get this edited, it might even be out before this. Who knows? Regardless, I had a bit of a time getting out here. That's a story for another time. But for right now, the reason that's relevant is it gave me the time to read this. This, my friends, is another commissioned review. This is The Old Guard, Volume 1. This was the basis for the Charlize Theron-led Netflix movie from, I think it was 2 years ago now? And I got commissioned, I've actually been commissioned to read several more volumes beyond this, but I was first commissioned to read Volume 1. And so I have, and it's real good. Here's what I was most surprised to find out, coming at this from the perspective of having seen the film first. The film was shockingly loyal to the graphic novel. Like, when it comes to graphic novels that, so far as I knew, didn't even really have a cult following, I was shocked at how loyal it was. Which means that if you've seen the film, nearly everything you liked about it is in here. I say nearly, I'm not even sure if there's a major point that isn't. I mean, there's obviously the performance aspects and the way that the actors breathe life into their role. That is unique to the film version. But yeah, this is pretty much the same thing. The art style, I think, is worth actually getting into a bit more than I would otherwise, because that's actually sort of one of the main standouts since the plot is so similar. Don't worry, I'll still talk about the plot in a little bit. But you can see from the art, and I'll put some stuff up for you as well, it's very stark. There are oftentimes a lot of harsh shadows. And what's most interesting to me is the characters are not drawn to be pretty. And I mean that in multiple levels. Most of the characters are not designed around the idea that they are attractive. Even some of the characters like who are in romantic entanglements, like, they are not drawn in a classically beautiful way. So I say not attractive, that's a little harsh. But I mean, they certainly aren't classic comic book hero attractive. Let's go with that. That's a bit more fair. And the art style especially really comes alive during the scenes of violence where the stark nature of the visuals and the colors really gets put to strong use. And it works the rest of the time otherwise. It flows very well, both as a narrative and visually from panel to panel. Plot-wise, if you haven't seen the movie, which I do recommend, I'm also going to recommend this. This was good too. This is kind of a little bit of an alternate take on the Highlander concept. So the Highlander from the 80s just had these immortals who, people who realized they couldn't die. Nobody knew why, and they all eventually would be drawn together to fight each other. This is a little bit similar in that these are people who realize that they don't die. Well, more accurately, they die and come back. So they certainly aren't immune from pain. And even the coming back carries an asterisk. I'll get to that. It's one of the neat twists about it. So they just don't die. And they are drawn to each other, but to band together as opposed to fight with each other. That's not to say they don't have conflict. They do. But the whole thing is about the group mentality and the group dynamic. And first of all, that's the first thing. The idea that they're not all out to get each other. That's the most basic twist. But then the more interesting twist is that eventually, when they are subject to something that would kill any other normal human being, it will actually kill them. They come back until they don't. And they never know when. They never know which time getting stabbed, thrown off a building, shot, whatever, is going to be the time they don't come back. And the lead character, Andy, who is several thousand years old, it would be an overstatement to say she has a death wish. But it is fair to say that she's kind of ready for it to happen. And she wonders why it hasn't yet. So, since they all are soldiers, that's something that all these people share as a background. Although the way they come at that is somewhat different. Some of the characters, like Book, was not, he fought in Napoleon's army, but he was a deserter, ultimately. And he was only there because the alternative was to be imprisoned. So, he's not exactly, I'm here to fight for the glory, or whatever, kind of person, and never was at any point in his life. But they all are soldiers of varying kinds, including the newest addition to the group, Niall. Now, all the characters are great, but standing out just like they did in the movie, and in the exact same ways, like my favorite scene from the movie, I realized is lifted almost word for word from this. Nikki and Joe, these two men who are immortal, and they are partners, and they love each other so deeply. And it's amazingly well portrayed. And neither of them is, like, this isn't even a spoiler. I consider this a recommendation. Neither of them dies permanently. Neither of them suffers any worse than any other character in the whole dang thing. There is this gloriously in love pair of gay immortals. Yes, I'm really, really here for that. And other than that, I'm not going to go point for point across the plot. Like, you have the premise. And they always have to keep on the move because they fear being found out. And what would happen to them if they are. So they have that going on, and so we have the integration of a new member of the group who has just realized for the first time that she doesn't die. And so we have her integration into the group, we have the situation that they're dealing with. And it is pretty much the same as the film, plot-wise. So if you've seen the film, you pretty much know. The only character I'd say who had a notable deviation was Merrick, the villain, and only insofar as in the comic he's a bit more, well, he's a bit buff. He's a bit more of kind of a bro than he is in the film, where he's a bit more of a little weasel shit. But overall personality and like lines, very much the same. So like the essence of the character remains. It's just the sort of the visual representation of him is a little bit different. But other than that, it moves at a good pace. Props to Greg Rucka who was the writer on this, for finding a way to take what is effectively a spin on the Highlander premise and do something different with it. Focus as little on their immortality as possible. Like, it comes up, and it definitely weighs on them, especially Andy. But this is about how they exist in the world. And their immortality complicates that, obviously. But this is about how they interact with the world, what they do, how they move forward, how the world has changed around them, and how some of them are kind of ready to be done being here. It's really good. It's really well fleshed out. I'm going to be super curious when I get to the other volumes to see how much of my love of the movie bled into my reading of this, because that's a distinct possibility, because I liked the movie a lot. And this being so loyal, I do wonder if some of the things in this aren't as strong as I think they are because I'm carrying over my love of the movie version of it. I don't think that's the case, but that'll get put to the test when I get to Volume 2, probably next month at some point. But The Old Guard, Volume 1, from Image Comics, the basis for the Netflix film, I'm going to recommend this. I think I might even recommend it slightly more to anyone who hasn't seen the Netflix film, because like I said, if you've seen the Netflix film, you kind of know the plot. It's still really good. So I wouldn't say that's a reason to not read it or not buy it, but it does become a little bit of a redundant experience, at least as far as the narrative goes. The presentation is different, and it's different enough to be worth it, I think. But I'm going to be very interested to check out the second volume of this. The Old Guard. Have you read it? What do you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, share, subscribe, Patreon. That's how I was commissioned to review this piece of work. And that is what enables me to have this be my living. It's why I am able to be out here in Los Angeles for Gallifrey 1 and do what I do. But even if you can't support me that way, like, share, subscribe, all help me out as well, here on YouTube. But, don't worry too much about that either. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so just come on back next time you need a break. Patreon shout-outs. Thank you to Turok, Shane Ross, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Robin Powell, Phrenobulax, the Poodle, Edelon, Tracy Scrabbit, Dharma Michael Doyle, Vincent Paul Bartolucci, Angry Caspero, Adam Lefty Taylor, Robin Moore, Shayla Gourlay, and Bookworm. You can support me as well. Hear me mispronounce your name. Sure, I got some of those wrong.